It's what happened was a terrible feeling of inferiority that I was beset with, because I didn't have proper clothes. I would just have this feeling that I wasn't as good as other people. You know, that because I didn't have money, because I didn't have what I ought to have. And that's not a good feeling for a young person at 14. I think it's just a bad age to be so insecure. I was born, I think, with a social conscience. I don't know what it is, but from the day I was born, I have always been concerned about people and about things going on in the world. I went through a very tough time during the Depression, and that may have a lot to do with why I have been concerned about things as I went through it. The engineers were fired. One of the first groups to be fired during the Depression were the engineers. So my father lost his job. The Army came along with these CCC camps for city young men. They set up these CCC camps under the Army, and my father was in the Army. He ran the camps, and then we would travel. We did a lot of moving because it was in the mountains. They were usually working on roads, that kind of thing, forestry. And so it would take us to small places in the mountains, usually. After that, however, is when the Depression really hit, because that period ended, and this is the late 30s, I think, and that's when it was really, really bad for us. Up to that point, I'd had a wonderful childhood, really, just fine. But then everything changed, and all of a sudden I knew what bad things could happen. You know how it is with children, you know, they think everything's just rosy. And it wasn't rosy, it was very difficult. He got sick, my father got sick, and I couldn't find a job. My mother, I had to go, she ended up going to sell children's books door to door, which just about killed her. It was very tough. And we were on welfare. Yeah, we were, because I remember some stamps. The interesting thing about all this is, of the other three children, they never talked about this, period. It's as if it never existed. And I seem to have been much more affected by it than the rest of the family. You know, maybe they were, the other children, I mean, but they didn't like to talk about it. And yet I think it affected me, you know, for a long time in my life. And it made me empathetic to others with problems, because I'd had problems. I didn't have enough clothing, and during the winter I would be cold, not enough clothes. I mean, you go through those experiences. Now, maybe it was just the age I was at. I was 14 when all this was going on. I was just starting high school. Whether it was because of my age or what it was, but I remember trying to talk to my sisters about it. Oh, we didn't want to talk about that. Well, that didn't happen. How I saw the law, maybe because I initially used it to help the poor, but I saw the law as a service, and I found it very difficult to charge for it. I think probably my experience with legal aid, but when I had my own practice, I found it very difficult to charge much. As I say, I thought of law as a necessity, a need that people had. And in the family area, I think that's true, you know. So when I hear all this stuff about lawyers, you know, I think, what are they talking about? To me, it's a wonderful, wonderful profession, and you're doing good. But that isn't the way a lot of people see lawyers. They see them as just after money, and the idea that every lawyer is wealthy, and that just isn't true. Lots of lawyers don't make a lot of money, and all the surveys, they've shown that. But in most people's minds, oh yeah, lawyer, oh yeah. Between late 60s and early 70s, for the first time, attorneys were paid to serve the poor. And I had always wanted, that's exactly what I'd wanted to do with the law, was to serve the poor. So luckily I was able to get with the Legal Aid Society in Mercer County, and then I ran the thing. I was the director of the Legal Aid Society and had all these young, eager lawyers from Harvard, Yale, the best schools, who were willing to come and work for $9,000 a year, and they were so committed, they were so idealistic, so was I. And we thought we would just simply give the poor a voice that they hadn't had before. Up to that point, they didn't have lawyers to help them, yet they were up against lawyers, whether it was a landlord or it was a school, it was the state. Every entity that got involved in their lives, they had no representation. And so that's what we did. You know, when I think back, I wonder how I even could handle all the emotion that was involved. So many people just want to have somebody to talk to. So many people are so lonely. And if anybody pays attention to them and listens to them, they are so overcome. It is really a sad state of affairs. I'm sure it's true in any city. This is a city, Trenton's a city. That you have people that nobody pays attention to, nobody listens to, nobody takes the time or the trouble, and a lot of official people, like in social welfare agencies and so on, unfortunately, they have an attitude. They look down on the people they serve, whether it's in welfare or if it's even in the schools. They tend to look down on these people. And that comes across. People are very sensitive to this kind of thing. They know what people's attitudes are. And so that's what you found when you were in this work, is you were giving people attention, voice, representation. It was a very rewarding thing, but the fact is I know it goes on today. It's a continuing situation in society. And it's too bad that there aren't more efforts to help these people. I don't know how much goes on today, but it's very important. Very important. Yeah.
Alice Costello. Alice's curious mind takes her to many programs at the Newton Senior Center, ranging from fitness and health to a variety of educational programs and talk groups. She is a retired public defender with a great appetite for learning.